watching Rogers TV.
Hello and welcome to Rogers TV Community News. I'm Carla Fitzsimmons. Be on the lookout. One of Canada's top fugitives is wanted in connection with a bushfire and murder near Guelph. Danik Miguel Bourgeois is wanted by Wellington OPP. He's wanted for the second-degree murder of Frederick John Hatch. Bourgeois' last known residence was in a small town outside of Ottawa, but police believe he could be anywhere in Canada. The BOLO program is a national initiative that spotlights Canada's most wanted fugitives.
With today's concept, the spoof masks, we once again raise the bar in what BOLO is wanting to do to encourage you to be on the lookout. Behind every one of the spoof masks behind me is a police officer, ranging from constable to superintendent, who volunteered for this event. For today, we call them models. To make this as real as possible, in order to give you a better chance to be on the lookout, the physical traits of each model behind me matches the fugitive that he or she is portraying. Look at their faces. Remember their faces. Be on the lookout for them. Detailed information about all top 25 suspects are available at boloprogram.org.
Sexual Assault Support Center of Waterloo Region, along with other local organizations, are sounding alarms on proposed federal cuts that would have a devastating impact locally and across the country.
Right now, there is almost an 80% cut proposed for the Department of Women and Gender Equality federally. So that department's called WAGE. And WAGE funds gender equity work across Canada in various forms, but has a really big role in addressing gender-based violence in Canada. And so we are at a time where gender-based violence has been declared an epidemic in our community. Waterloo Region is the third highest level of sex trafficking in Canada. In 2019, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives said that Waterloo Region was the least safe major urban centre in Canada for women, and that was based on reports of sexual assault, domestic violence, and criminal harassment. So we are dealing with a very significant issue in our community, and then also looking at the federal department being slashed in substantial ways. And so something that's really been on my mind a lot lately is the fact that a lot of cost-saving measures are happening right now across Canada. It's in response to a lot of the things that are happening in the US. And we know that Canadians have really rallied around, we're not the 51st state, we're different. And when you think about what makes Canada, Canada, what makes us different from the US is we are known for valuing human rights. We are known for valuing the concept of like taking care of one another. And so a slash to the Department of Women and Gender Equality is a slash to what makes us Canadian. And in our communities, we're at a crisis level when it comes to gender-based violence. So there's so many reasons why that slash is going to hurt folks locally, hurt folks across Canada, and also really is the exact opposite of what we want to be doing right now as Canadians in terms of our values. Last week, a number of our agencies in our community came together. It was a leadership table for Waterloo Region's gender-based violence strategy. So we came together, we drafted a letter to the Prime Minister's office, a letter of concern about these proposed cuts, and we also issued a news release. So that letter and that news release is available on our center's website. We also shared it on all our socials. We're asking the community to amplify our message. So reshare that information. Reach out to our MPs. So what are our MPs doing in terms of representing our region in Ottawa? Are they raising this issue? Are they saying it's a priority for our community that we don't see these cuts locally and nationally? And so what we need is for folks to raise their voices, because if enough folks speak out and say, I'm not okay with what makes us Canada being slashed, gender equity, addressing violence against women, then I think that the government will listen, but they need to hear the voices of Canadians right now. In the last 24 hours, the thing that's been really resonating with me is it is the thing that makes us Canadian, that we don't cut these kinds of things, that we have the basic value of caring for one another.
Premier Doug Ford continues his push to ban the use of speed cameras across the province, despite the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police and some municipalities voicing concerns, advocating for their continued use in school zones. More than 20 mayors from across the province, including Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe, offered to tweak the program, making changes like only operating during school hours and ticketing those who are driving at high rates of speed. This is what the Premier had to say.
What's unreasonable is a total cash grab, and we know speed cameras do not work. Simple as that. I have an idea that we're putting forward that we're going to put traffic calming infrastructure, and that will bring it down to zero. If I put infrastructure in with the support of the municipalities, and God knows they've collected hundreds of millions, no infrastructure whatsoever. They're just pocketing the cash. I guarantee you, no one will be speeding, 100%.
Carrie Mitchell, an associate professor of urban planning at the University of Waterloo and a fellow at the Balsillie School of International Affairs, started a petition urging the government to reverse its decision and reinstate speed cameras in community safety zones.
My hope, if we have enough signatures from folks across Ontario, is that they will look at that and say, we've misjudged Ontarians. They actually do care about their kids and their grandkids' safety. And asking people to slow down in a school zone, whether school's in or out, you know, I've had comments like, well, what about on the weekends? Like, well, my daughter plays at her school playground on the weekend. All of my neighbors' kids play there too. It's a rather small ask. So I think actually the best way to get more information and to sign the petition right now is to go to the website speedcamerasavelives.ca. So this was created by some concerned citizens in the Toronto area, and they have connected my change.org petition to their website. So it's very easy, speedcamerasavelives.ca. Go there. You can also see how to write to your local MPP. You just put in your postal code and it will help you figure that out. An email takes a few minutes of somebody's time. And once a politician receives enough of that, they have the mandate from their constituents to go forward with that and push for the change. But if they don't hear from us, they don't know. But the reality is this is not a cash grab. Taxes are something that we all pay. Fines for speeding, you only pay that when you're actually speeding. So the simplest solution for every single person is to not speed. And we're not putting these on highways. These are not on major thoroughfares. These are in residential areas, and these are in school zones. So I don't think it's too much to ask my fellow Ontarians to simply not speed in a school zone. And the data on this are really clear. We know what happens when a child or an elderly person, or even you or I, would get hit at 50 kilometers an hour. It's not a good outcome. Basically giving a blanket statement saying we're going to take away the tool of enforcement on residential roads is so problematic. Engineers often talk about the three E's of traffic engineering. It's enforcement, education, and engineering, so the redesign of roads. And I kind of liken it to a three-legged stool. Like when you take away one of those key pillars, you're cutting off one of the legs that traffic engineers have to be able to effectively manage traffic in our cities. And in this case, in our residential areas and our school zones. And why on earth would we do this? Why would we cut a leg off a stool? It just doesn't make sense to me. So this is why I started the petition. I love Doug Ford's idea to give more money to cities for the engineering component. He's right. We need to redesign our roads. but this is very expensive. So just as an example, the City of London, from internal documents I've seen, they say that they get about 300 requests per year for traffic calming. They have the funds to be able to implement 3 to 5 projects per year. So we're looking at about 1%. So if Premier Ford would like to give the City of London and every other municipality money to implement more, I say, fantastic, that's wonderful. But don't take away the enforcement until you've re-engineered the roads.
As the Ford government prepares to introduce legislation later this month, municipalities are trying to figure out how to proceed. On Tuesday at the Region of Waterloo Administration and Finance Committee meeting, Regional Councillor Colleen James introduced a motion that would pause any further previously planned cameras.
But while the program is delivering safety, the politics around it are shifting. The province and Premier Ford has announced an intent to bring forward legislation that could end the ASC program. And so I'm bringing this forward because we need to be clear about the implications. If the province cancels this program overnight, there are contracts in place for equipment, for processing, winding down agreements that all come at a cost. There are staff currently employed.
After much discussion about the motion, an amendment to the motion was made. The 6 cameras initially scheduled for setup will continue as scheduled for the time being. As mentioned earlier, the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police penned an open letter to the Premier, but the Police Association of Ontario has a different stance on speed cameras. I spoke with Mark Baxter, the president of the Police Association of Ontario. Here's an excerpt from that conversation.
We have tremendous respect for the OACP, the chiefs of police, the leadership that they give to our profession. It's really important that we recognize that this is sort of what's been missing from the conversation, is that the OACP represent a different perspective than we do, right? They speak for police executives. We represent and speak for the frontline officers and civilian members, the folks that are on the ground doing the work every day in our communities. And, our position is informed by their lived experiences. And, automated speed cameras have eroded public trust. And we don't think that they're going to deliver those same road safety outcomes that proactive policing would, that other traffic calming measures would. So, that all that being said, we do share the OACP's commitment to safer roads, and our approaches to how we achieve that may differ, but the goal is the same thing, right? Protect the public, build strong, safe communities. Our members across Ontario are go to work every day to ensure safety, security of our communities. And that's the number one priority, is safety, security of our communities. And part of that is road safety enforcement. And, we have supported the government's decision to remove speed cameras on this. Yes, we know that there's statistics that say it reduces speeds by 45%. But what we continue to see is more cameras popping up and more tickets being issued. If we're reducing speeds, why are we not seeing a reduction in tickets? And so from our perspective, let's change behavior in the moment. Let's some of these traffic calming initiatives that the government's talking about really sort of seem to make sense. Let's install flashing signs. Let's make sure there's an education campaign. Let's make sure that there's speed bumps, raised crosswalks, roundabouts, things that in the moment are going to slow drivers down, not, where we have a situation right now where someone goes for a speed camera and they don't realize that they sped through that speed zone until they get a ticket 3 weeks or 4 weeks later in the mail. Let's slow drivers in the moment with these other traffic calming measures.
Thanks for watching this edition of Rogers TV Community News. I'm Carla Fitzsimmons. Enjoy the rest of your day.